Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show, everyone. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. And everyone, how you doing? Welcome into the program. So today on the show, we have computer and technology news. We have a ton of different stories, everything from new hardware, new software, services, all that and more. Of course, you will find all of that in the show notes after the program at computeramerica.com. And of course, check that out there. Now, with that being said, everyone, welcome into the show once again. And yeah, before we get started, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, all the shows, the podcast, links to social media, articles, reviews, really anything that we do here with the program, you'll be able to find right there on our website. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with computer and technology news. And brought to you by Computer America. Here we go. Okay, so I think that for our first story, and we have a couple of larger stories that I think are going to be a lot of fun, but we'll start off with something a little bit easier, and though easier to digest, not easier on the heart though. Check this one out here, BlizzCon 2021. You know, I always love these events, huge Blizzard fan, and unfortunately, BlizzCon 2021, so this year's BlizzCon event, not even last year's, this year's, is canceled. There you go. Just found that out today. And of course, they're already looking at 2022, early 2022 for a global event. But unfortunately, turns out there will probably be another online only event, not a no in-person event. So they mentioned that it's been canceled this year due to COVID-19. However, the company plans to host a global event set for the early part of next year, and that's what the company announced on Wednesday, which, they have the whole press release right here. You can see that there. They mentioned that building an in-person BlizzCon is an epic and complex affair that takes many months of preparation. They mentioned it's not just for them, but for the people who help produce the whole show, partner with the show, esports pros, host events, entertainers, artists, and more. All of them have to have plenty of heads up to know what they're doing here for the event. They mentioned that the ongoing complexities and uncertainties of the pandemic have impacted our ability to properly move forward with these events, and ultimately we're now past the point where we would develop any kind of event by November. So essentially, everything is disrupted, and not knowing how many people they're allowed to gather, will international travel, and I'm sure that's probably one of the bigger ones, will international travel even be allowed again by the time November happens? And because as of right now, it's not. You really can't fly in or fly out from the United States or from parts of Europe, things like that. So looks like they're going with the completely online option once again. Do I like it? No. Do I understand it? Absolutely, completely. And hopefully by early 2022, as they're saying, they can put something together. So there you go. And obviously BlizzCon is a really amazing place to see what Blizzard has been working on and developing. And, it sounds like they have a couple of projects that haven't even been announced yet that I'd really love to know, as well as, things like Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2. But by and large, just simply, BlizzCon 2021 canceled. If you're planning on going, not anymore. So, from that one, also another update. We talked about this one a little bit a day or two ago, but MGM Studios, the one that owns Bond and many other IPs. Well, looks like Amazon is buying the entire studio for $8.5 billion. Everything, including the debt, including the IPs, nothing left out. Amazon is going to purchase the whole thing. Now, this article here from Axios mentions these things that, the deal, Amazon's second largest acquisition ever behind the $13.7 billion Whole Foods deal, represents a major milestone in the tech sector's push into entertainment. I got to say that very clearly, with ISPs merging and buying up other properties and starting streaming services, trying to build out their libraries for these things, by and large, it's really been no secret that tech companies are very keen on owning a lot of the content that you would watch anyways, because if they can get you to pay for the subscription and then pay them for what you would watch on the subscription, or at least own things that you would want to watch to keep you on the internet service plan, then it's a very clear benefit why they would do this. Now, they mentioned that MGM is a logical asset for Amazon to sweep up, given that it's one of the few remaining independent media assets available for purchase. They also mentioned a couple others like the AMC network and Lionsgate. But other tech giants like Apple and Netflix have reportedly MGM, but ultimately passed on buying it. Tech companies have traditionally been hesitant to buy content companies that they could instead build themselves. Though, obviously, Amazon, where we've seen a lot of their past acquisitions, again, like Whole Foods and Twitch and, a number of other services, whenever they want to break into a sector or a segment of the market, they don't want to kind of wait and build it up and, kind of do their thing. They know that they have enough assets, they have enough purchasing power that they can come in and just, slam it down on the table and say, we are now the big ones. And yeah, that's what they're doing here with MGM. Amazon has already built its own movie studio, but the addition of MGM could strengthen it significantly, increase the amount of content it would own and be able to license to other TV networks or streams. Now, with that being said, the article continues that the Warner Media Discovery deal announced last week has sparked a frenzy among media companies looking to get even bigger to compete. And obviously with AT&T spinning off Warner Media and selling that off to Discovery and essentially starting a new company, that, Warner Media is a huge asset. That was about as big as Fox selling to Disney. And of course, Disney owning a lot of the Marvel and a lot of the Fox assets as well. I mean, at this point, there's only going to be, as far as national and, let's face it, international movies and media and things like that, in the United States, there's only going to be a handful of players. There's not going to be 20 different studios making movies. There's not going to be 20 different, kind of companies doing this. There's only going to be, 5 or 6 that actually have any kind of weight behind them. And really, at one point, Netflix was the one to beat. They were so dominant in the streaming space, but now with name all of the different streaming services and another one coming, Netflix is I think they're still ahead in terms of straight content, but in terms of, other assets like old television shows and old movies, and of course upcoming stuff, and that's really where I think this MGM acquisition by Amazon is going to stand out, because now Amazon gets to release a Bond film. That's right. If they want to do it in theaters and on Amazon, and on their Prime Video service, they can do that. When it comes to upcoming stuff, Netflix was the undisputed king of these streaming services. Now, it's heated up significantly, and when it comes to streaming services and movies, it's probably going to be pretty neck and neck. Now, they said that while the Amazon deal is unlikely to face much antitrust scrutiny, policy experts expect it to heighten calls for antitrust legislation. Some lawmakers are already weighing in among rumors of a potential deal, and the news comes one day after the Attorney General has slapped Amazon with an antitrust suit, which we have that right here as well, which we'll talk about that next. I think going from Amazon to Amazon, but still, it's not straight competition because obviously it's not one company buying up its partner, but it does put a really big emphasis that these tech companies are buying media companies, and you're merging two different sectors together, and let's face it, tech was already a multi-trillion-dollar industry with Apple and Amazon and, a lot of these other providers already being worth over $1 trillion by themselves. And then you start to roll in the entertainment industry, which is, hundreds of billions of dollars, and of course, international dollars as well, that it's just fear that tech companies are getting even more dominant, and especially in fields where they have the money from their tech businesses to come in and completely dominate other sectors that are much smaller and much more influential. Because let's face it, in terms of all the different areas of our economy that have weakened due to COVID-19 and the pandemic, now is probably a very good time if you were in the market for your own $8 billion media asset. Movies have not done well. Production has stopped almost completely. These things are probably at their weakest. And the tech companies, which have been so strong in their sales and the adoption of their technology has been so prolific, this seems like a no-brainer. The entertainment industry will come back, but hey, they're weak right now, and obviously money will change hands, and lots of it. So there you have it. I think it's completely fair for lawmakers to look at tech companies and say, is this something that we really want? For Amazon to own, even another sector of another, a large portion of another sector, and I think it's going to go through, but I'm probably, the first one to say that I probably wouldn't be happy about it, because Amazon itself does a lot of things that it will deny, like this next story, where Amazon, check this one out, accused of unfair pricing policies by Washington, D.C., which is pretty crazy, because obviously I think a lot of people think of Amazon and they go, we can check it in stores, but let's check Amazon first. Amazon has incredible price selection, and it's almost unbeatable. So when Amazon, kind of developed that culture and developed that reputation that, hey, their prices are the best around, if they started to manipulate that a little bit, hey, they're going to make even more money, and at the expense of your everyday consumer. So, Amazon is being sued by Washington, D.C. over allegations it abuses its position as a retail giant, saying that Amazon's online sales platform benefits from and is protected by Amazon's anti-competitive business practices. where Amazon said that the lawsuit has it exactly backwards. Let's see, so exactly backwards would be Amazon accused of unfair pricing. So that means that Amazon accuses everyone else that they are the most fair in pricing. So they mentioned that the Attorney General for DC, they have a lawsuit that, quote, far from enabling consumers to obtain the best products at the lowest prices, Amazon instead causes prices across the entire online retail sales market to be artificially inflated, both for products sold on Amazon's online retail platform and on its online retail platforms, or I should say on its competitors, because obviously every competitor knows that Amazon gets the bulk of the traffic, and all you have to do is match Amazon, because that's probably where people are going first. Match Amazon as best you can, and I think Amazon knows that they're getting the traffic, they're getting the eyeballs, and odds are, people aren't really shopping around, so makes sense. Let's see. So a spokesperson for Amazon mentioned that the DC Attorney General has it backwards. Sellers set their own price for the products that they offer in our store. Amazon takes pride in the fact that we offer low prices across the broadest selection, and like any store, we reserve the right not to highlight offers to customers that are not priced competitively. What does that mean? That means that they reserve the right to not show people products that are placed at a higher price, one that is more suitable. So the lawsuit seeks to stop Amazon from using its anti-competitive practices and calls for damages and some remedies. So obviously, money. Let's see. So Amazon added that the relief sought would force it to feature higher prices to customers, oddly going against the core objectives of antitrust law. So that's what Amazon says of this. Let's see. So in 2019, Amazon scrapped a requirement for merchants to sign a price parity agreement that stopped them from selling at lower prices under pressure from senior U.S. politicians. But they said it introduced an effectively identical substitute. The retail giant has already been charged with abusing competition rules by the EU, and in November, it found that Amazon had used data on third-party sellers that use this marketplace to boost sales of its own label goods. And that's the one that I'm most familiar with. Amazon did this thing where, due to a lot of different regulation out there, in terms of, toxicity and, kind of safety commissions, things like that, Amazon had to say that this is let's take random umbrella from, probably from a Chinese seller. Random seller of Chinese umbrellas had to submit every piece of product, how it was assembled, every little thing, and also mention how much they wanted to sell it for. So they know that the parts for the umbrella cost $1. They are listing the umbrella at $4, and therefore, they know their profit margin. They know exactly how to make it. They have schematics. They have every little detail on these products. And Amazon, again, has already been found to have done this. They go through their third-party sellers and go, this third-party seller makes makes $3 on Chinese-made umbrellas. So we're going to make our own umbrella, and we're using essentially their product as a blueprint, and they're going to charge $2 instead of $4. Effectively, Amazon can place an order for 100,000 umbrellas and price them much lower, still make a profit, and drive the third-party sellers out. And all of that with data collected from just having to sell on the platform. Because let's face it, they didn't have to hand the data over if they didn't want to sell on Amazon. But can a business really survive if you don't sell on Amazon? So they were forced to hand the information over, and then the information was then used, as they had already found, inappropriately by Amazon and anti-competitively to do that. It's Yeah, Amazon has been found to do things like this before. So Amazon insists that far from being anti-competitive, its private label products were good for customers and offered more choice. Essentially, think about all the things that are Amazon Basic or, Solimo or, all the different Amazon brands that are so much cheaper and more affordable than their competitors. Yeah, same practice. So they mentioned that no company cares more about small businesses or has done more to support them over the past 2 decades than Amazon. Yes, the ever benevolent $1.6 trillion small business minded Amazon. Who knew? So, the latest legal challenge comes as tech firms face increased scrutiny, having seen sales of memberships jump during the pandemic. Obviously, Amazon has seen sales soar as consumers were forced to stay home and, of course, have things delivered to their home. All of this means that Amazon making huge acquisitions. They are making a lot of money. A lot of people are not returning to the stores to buy these things. They are used to Amazon and they are used to the convenience. Now the question is this healthy for the marketplace? Should a company be that dominant in so many spaces? We'll have to find out. So there's that article. That was article number 3. Article number 4. Let's try to find something to really sink our teeth into, because that was that was close. That was getting close. Okay, I think we can do this. Let's see, it'll be these two here. How about an insurance company that made a bit of an over-exaggeration? And this is something that AI has, really allowed companies to do, which is promise the world, promise things that really they're not able to do, but with the magic hand wave of artificial intelligence, they can, people are like, well, maybe they can. And that's why we have this article from Motherboard, and that's Vice's publication on technology. Todd Feathers and Janice Rose mentioning that Lemonade, if you haven't heard of them, I think they do car insurance. I'm not really sure what they do. But anyways, Lemonade has backtracked after suggesting it uses quote-unquote non-verbal cues like human eye movement to reject claims. Its response raises more questions than answers. So yeah, we're going to get through this article as best we can. But just remember, polygraph tests that are administered by a quote-unquote expert and are much more invasive than just a video call, those are not even admissible in court. They are something that investigators can use to kind of say, well, this person got a little agitated here, but by and large, they are so inaccurate because people can trick them and they can be fooled so easily that, they're just not really proof of anything. Now, for this company to say that they use artificial intelligence and 1,600 data points to say that, someone may be trying to commit fraud here, well, that isn't really something technology can do yet. Maybe something by a much larger company with a lot more data, and even then it's probably not that accurate. Let's find out what Lemonade is promising here. So, an AI-driven insurance company that claims that it can detect fraud by analyzing quote-unquote non-verbal cues in videos of a person speaking has removed its claims after being called out by AI experts on Twitter, raising questions about not just the dystopian aims of the company, but also about the actual capabilities of its AI and what its AI is used for. When it comes to insurance, fraud, I'm sure, is definitely a problem. And there's plenty of ways to detect fraud. Obviously, if you could automate that and get people to, not, get people out of the equation when it comes to detecting fraud and handling fraud, yeah, that would save Lemonade a lot of money. But there's a reason every other insurance company out there has claims specialists and these adjusters and these experts, is because the technology is just not there yet. Now, Lemonade is an insurance startup that lets people file claims through video submitted on an app. In a Twitter thread Monday, the company later deleted and called awful, so they, again, backtracked. Lemonade announced that the customer service AI chatbots it uses collect as much as 1,600 data points from a single video of a customer answering 13 questions. Saying, quote, "Our AI carefully analyzes these videos for signs of fraud. It can pick up nonverbal cues that traditional insurers can't since they do not use a digital claims process." That's what the company said in a now deleted tweet. The thread implied that Lemonade was able to detect whether a person was lying in their video and could thus decline insurance claims if its AI believed a person was lying. Very inconvenient, and not to mention that, I'm not saying that they have to give a reason, but they honestly probably do. But if the reason is, our AI says so, I don't know how well that would hold up in court, because obviously there's so many more nuances that would go into this. Now, AI experts on Twitter immediately mocked and contested the claim, pointing out that the entire premise of so-called quote-unquote emotion recognition systems, which claim to detect a person's mood or mental state, are highly suspect. They also raised the well-established point that the systems are inherently biased. The only system I've heard like that was one by IBM, and theirs was just testing the tonality of someone's voice. They could tell if someone was getting agitated, if they were tired, if they were frustrated, if they were angry, and the artificial intelligence could then escalate that person to someone else. That was something being done in a lab, and they themselves even mentioned it was years in the making. And that is simply analyzing voice. This is analyzing, again, quote unquote, 1,600 data points that they claim can detect straight up lying. Not even a person's mood, but someone's, ulterior motives. And yeah, I'm glad that the nice folks over on Twitter were able to point this out. They say that, quote, "These kinds of physiognomic systems don't work, period. It's increasingly embarrassing for companies to talk about them, and yet somehow they keep bubbling up." That was an AI professor at Western University saying that there always seemed to be the temptation to brag that you're doing some new fancy thing, as this company did in their tweets. So, yep, it's not really possible yet. Again, you can detect patterns, which is something that AI does very, very well, but everyone's unique, everyone's different, and they definitely don't have the data set just from one video and 13 questions to determine if someone is trustworthy or not. I would say that no one, like AI or human regardless, would have the ability to determine if someone is trustworthy or not based on that. You can determine if someone's nervous, if they're anxious, if they're scared, if they are distressed. You can detect their mood, but if they're lying, that would take a bit more work. So Lemonade deleted the Twitter thread, saying that it caused more confusion than anything else. It also claimed that the company doesn't approve or reject insurance claims based solely on AI analysis, saying, quote, "We do not use and we're not trying to build AI that uses physical or personal features to deny claim," which would be like phrenology and physiognomy. And phrenology, that's something that I've actually come across here on the show, which last time I heard about it, people were determining if certain facial features were indicative of people lying and trustworthiness and things like that, which has its basis in racism. Not something you really want to found a company or your AI on, which are inherently biased enough. Now, the term nonverbal cues was a bad choice, and again, this is Lemonade explaining themselves in a blog post. The term nonverbal cues was a bad choice of words to describe the facial recognition technology we're using to flag claims submitted by the same person under different identities. These flag claims then get reviewed by our human investigators. AI is non-deterministic and has been shown to have biases across different communities. That's why we never let AI perform deterministic action such as rejecting claims or canceling policies. Now, that's a problem because that's exactly what they claimed. And then they're, of course, backtracking, saying that they don't do that. Good on them. That second one, perfect. That's what you should be saying. Now, AI in general, for this particular application, I doubt it's ready for mainstream at all. If they're trying to develop this behind the scenes, let them. But really, it's not, to determine if two people are trying to submit claims under two different identities, I mean, yeah, but also, let's face it, facial recognition technology in many applications, I'm talking like law enforcement where they're trying to use it, as best they can, has like a false positive rate of anywhere from like 95, 99% in real world conditions. It might be a little bit different, when you have the camera in your face, but due to lighting conditions, due to glasses, beards, facial hair, changes in, weight loss, weight gain, things like that. This is going to be questionable at best that two people are the same person. It's doesn't seem like it'd be useful for any of that. Again, if this is something that the company feels like they want to pursue separately, great, let them try to develop this. But in practice, we've seen from so many other sources, it's not really going to work. Now, the article mentions that in attempting to clarify the situation, they still left widespread confusion about how the technology at the foundation of his business works. They mentioned that they use facial recognition technology, but in its privacy policy, it claims that it will never collect customers' biometric information, which the two statements kind of go against each other. And how it achieves 1,600 data points from a video of a person answering 13 questions without biometric information also isn't clear. I would imagine, there's probably like 150 data points that it tries to take from each question, and each question would be in a way to make them hesitate, repeat themselves, that kind of thing. There's no real good way to do this. Now, with that being said, Lemonade did not immediately respond to questions. It's worth noting that many so-called artificial intelligence startups actually rely on human labor behind the scenes, and then, of course, the AI will flag people, and then the human investigator will go do the work. By and large, it's still doing the exact same thing that any other insurance company would do. It's just, 50% of the time the AI will get it wrong, and 50% of the time the AI will get it right. Might as well have a coin flipper at this point until it gets better. Now, when Lemonade went public in 2020, it did so with the promise of being a classic artificial intelligence-backed industry disruptor, but with a twist, it would be a public benefit corporation, or B Corp, with a dual mission of creating profit and social good. Can it actually do that? I doubt it. In its S-1 form filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission prior to the company going public, the company states that its proprietary AI algorithm are at the core of its business, and that it could not function without them, but that they could also lead to profit loss should regulators crack down on their weaknesses. I mean, yeah, profit loss for sure. Can it run without them? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it, but at the same time, I also don't. I feel like the company is operating like any other insurance company. Of course, it has buzzwords and bells and whistles and everything that they're trying to, sell investors on, that they can do this. Can they operate without it? Yes. Does the company have a future without it? Probably not. I'm sure that they're hoping that the technology develops, improves, and adapts over time so that maybe in 5 to 10 years, when it actually comes time to, maybe flip the switch and let Lemonade do what it's currently promising it can do, then it can start making money. Can it operate without it? Yes. But again, does it have a future without it? Probably not. It would be just any other insurance company out there. Now, AI experts question how a commitment to social good can include using machine learning systems that the company itself admits are prone to bias and discrimination. Even on top of that, how are you going to train an AI without collecting biometric information? AI thrives on massive amounts of data, and they need to collect every little thing about a person in all regards. It makes little to no sense what it is that they're trying to push here. Now, with that being said, let's see. So the company wrote in the filing, our proprietary artificial intelligence algorithms may not operate properly or as we expect them to, which could cause us to write policies we should not write, price those policies inappropriately, or overpay claims that are made by our customers. Moreover, our proprietary artificial intelligence algorithms may lead to unintentional bias and discrimination. Happens a lot, especially in the financial sector when it comes to especially things like race. Now, let's see. So, Motherboard points out, experts say that the process of using AI to determine which nonverbal cues are evident of fraud or trustworthiness is far from a perfect science. And in fact, I brought up the polygraph test way at the beginning. I'm betting that it's, these success rates are probably higher on the proven, not very effective technology of a polygraph test over this. Now, with that being said, he added that these algorithmic systems can cause harm regardless of whether or not they make it to the final determination, because human intermediaries tend to take their assessments as fact. In short, if a computer says someone is lying, cheating, or guilty, people will tend to believe the system whether or not it is accurate. So there you have it. There was a fun study that I don't recall off the top of my head, but it was, kind of like this, the nameless voice of authority, and how people were willing to act on, information from a trusted, unseen source rather than their own eyes. And that was during the fun times of like the 1940s probably even earlier than that, where they had one college student zapping another college student and causing them very clear distress and physical harm. But the professor, on the outside was saying, don't worry about it, the patient's fine, we have the vitals all hooked up, there's not really in as much pain, it's just in their head, it's okay, keep zapping, keep turning the knob, keep doing this. And yeah, they found that people were much more likely to act on the unseen source rather than their own their own information. So I bring that up because, AI is already being seen as infallible and just omniscient. And as we've seen with things like self-driving cars and, so many other AI-driven systems, it's not perfect. It can only be as good as the data that's put into it. And at this point, data is very incomplete and in so many cases, just horrible to compile. It's biased in its own way. So there you go. That was story number 4, and best of luck to Lemonade. I just don't see how their technology really can, kind of do what they're promising at the moment, which they themselves, again, have backtracked off of. Let's talk about Russia. Hey, it's been a little while. Let's find out what the Kremlin has been up to. Oh, misinformation. Shocked. We're all shocked. Check this one out. Beth Mole, Ars Technica, and saying that French authorities, yes, the French, have been warning of dangerous lies spread about the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. And in recent days, several French influencers have publicly noted receiving partnership proposals from a dodgy agency called Pfizer over email and social media. The proposals, written in broken English, offered enticing lumps of money if the influencers spread entirely false claims and doubts about COVID-19 vaccines. Among the proposed claims is the dangerous falsehood that people who receive the Pfizer vaccine have a death rate 3 times higher than those who received the vaccine by AstraZeneca. So, if you didn't catch all that, again, random agency willing to pay influencers money to say that, Pfizer and the vaccine, Pfizer's vaccine is dangerous and deadly, and spread it. And then here's the fun part. They actually obtained a copy of one of the email offers, which directed influencers to tell that mainstream media ignores this scheme, and you decided to share it with your subscribers. The offer also says to put a question like why some governments actively purchasing Pfizer vaccine, which is dangerous to the health of the people? ? So, why are they buying the Pfizer vaccine, which has been proven to be safe, but still, they offer directed influencers to end their message by encouraging subscribers to quote unquote draw their own conclusions. What horrible language and just a horrible way to go about this. They mentioned that one who runs the Dirty Biology YouTube account with nearly 1.2 million subscribers mentioned that the client wants to remain incognito and that influencers who took the offer were asked to hide the sponsorship. The French medical blogger known as let's just say random French medical blogger, because I can't say that because it's in French, said on Twitter that he was offered about $2,500 to run the anti-Pfizer campaign, and some German influencers have also reported the same or similar offers. Now, here's the thing. Clearly, weird, nondescript COVID-19 vaccine denial crap has been pushed to French, German, a number of influencers in Europe in particular. That's really what we're getting at. Now, here's the question. How do we know it's Russia? Even though Russia is very prolific and they're very enticed by misinformation, because anything that would destabilize or distress or disrupt, the normal order in America, Europe, I'm sure China to an extent, plays into Russia's hand. But how do we know it's Russia? So according to the report, French counterintelligence authorities are now looking into whether the Kremlin is behind the offers. An unnamed security official who spoke with the journal said that this is similar to other campaigns run by Russia's Internet Research Agency, the IRA, which the U.S. authorities have said was behind the 2016 presidential election. So The Guardian reported that they previously listed the address as 5 Percy Street in London, but the company isn't registered in the UK, and its website no longer includes the address. Faz, however, referenced on a Russian employment website, according to the journal. There, it was described as a subsidiary of a Moscow-based marketing agency, and now deleted LinkedIn profiles they listed as Russian schools under education. So essentially, they have proof that the agency that is offering these sums of money to the influencers has a Russian background, or at least the people who founded it have a Russian background. They also mentioned that they also share similarities of those of the official Sputnik 5 Twitter account, and how the Russian Direct Investment Fund, the country's sovereign wealth fund that financially backed development of Sputnik 5, the account was labeled criticism of its vaccine as fake news, and of course, there's anti-vaccine propaganda coming out from that account as well. Let's see. So on April 25th, for instance, Sputnik 5 tweeted the false claim that the Pfizer has a 32 times higher death rate and 6 times higher infection rate than Sputnik 5, which is again the name of the vaccine there. In a post last month, notable pharmaceutical blogger Derek Lowe lambasted Russia's behavior on Twitter. Not mincing words, he said that the claims are bull honky, not honky, but I'm going to say honky, and posting them is a disgrace. So there you go. So essentially, again, they were asking influencers to not mention that they receive money, which would be illegal here in the United States. I'm sure parts of Europe as well, because you have to know who's advertising and what's an advertisement. They were asking people to say that, these blatantly false, higher death rate, COVID-19 vaccine statistics, and to quote unquote, this is what I hate most, do your own research, because they are posing the questions, they are feeding you false information, and then they are essentially making you go out and correct their crap and correct their completely false narrative. And by and large, people out there, hey, you got work, you got kids, you got your house, you got stuff to do, you got video games to play, you got Netflix to watch, you got you got stuff to clean, meals to cook. Your day is so full that, you probably aren't going to go out there and discredit these ideas, especially if it's from a trusted enough source like a fitness or a science blogger that you watch. If it comes from a credible enough source, you aren't going to go out and quote unquote do your own research or draw your own conclusions. Very, very suspect. And yeah, it's I'm glad that they were able to get a little bit closer to that. Obviously, we don't know if this was officially from Russia. There's not a giant, there's not a giant label on it saying, "Oh, this is a Russian disinformation campaign." But it's about as close as we're going to get to knowing that it was a Russian disinformation campaign. Okay, there's that story. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And how about this? This should be really quick. Piggybacking off of a previous idea that older technology, and I'm thinking back to the traditional hard drive, the HDD traditional hard drive, being able to see speeds that are almost comparable to an SSD, but with storage that is much greater than an SSD. Old technology will never be really done with. There will always be a use case for tape drives. Like if you think, oh, tape drives, who the heck is using a tape drive? Oh, trust me, people who have to store massive amounts of information, but they don't actually have to access it. Well, that's where tape drives come in handy. Things like, things like astronomy, where you're taking measurements of the night sky at multiple times, but, you don't have to really reference them once. Places like that. You still use tape drives. Well, not so much tape drives, but CDs, which I heard are actually making a comeback, which is still weird to me, but check this one out. Researchers build a 700 terabyte, not, almost a petabyte, 700 terabyte optical disc that can probably store all of Netflix. So obviously the author's trying to give people a bit of context. Now, researchers have managed to pack a quantity of data equivalent to 28,000 Blu-rays inside a single 12 centimeter optical disc. Let's find out how they did this. So they mentioned that this is coming out of China, so grain of salt, but the University of Shanghai for Science and Technology, RMIT University, and the National University of Singapore worked jointly to demonstrate a mechanism that improves the data density of optical media. Their research is part of an ongoing efforts to find efficient means of storing data while reducing the carbon footprint of data centers by ending their dependence on magnetic disks with a limited lifespan. Because obviously, data centers out there, even if you have a failure rate of 0.1%, 0.3 over 7 years. Every 10 years, they're going to replace all the hard drives and, make sure that they don't lose any data and do that on a regular basis. So yeah, they do have a pretty big carbon footprint, but CDs, I don't know if that's the answer. Still, an article published in the Science Advances journal, the researchers argue that while laser-enabled optical storage offers the best option to meet the growing data demands, the diffractive nature of light, let's say diffractive, I guess, I don't know, has limited the size of information bits that can be recorded, in turn limiting the storage capacity of optical disc. Instead, they use a new nanocomposite material that combines graphene. Perfect, graphene. So this will never be a thing. Graphene oxide flakes with the upconverted nanoparticles to achieve an unprecedented data density. So while advances are needed to optimize the technology, the research opens new avenues to address the global challenge of data storage. The technology is suited to mass production of optical disc, so the potential is enormous. Obviously, if you can get optical disc to store more data, and be able to read and write speeds are also important. How long does it take to actually put information on the disk? How long does it take to actually get the information off of the disk? Obviously, these are things that are unanswered by their research, but they mentioned that they are able to store more data. If the new bottleneck becomes the ability to pull it off, because really, if you think about it, think back to the days when you used to actually have to burn CDs and take information off of CDs. A single movie that was maybe, 10 gigabytes took 30 minutes to an hour to burn onto a CD. Now imagine if you had to burn 700 terabytes onto an optical disc that has an even more precise, kind of read-write operation, so it might take longer to do that. Right now, it's not great to have these hard drives everywhere, but especially with SSDs on the rise, the speed and ease of access of the information becomes just as important as the ability to store more data. If this whole thing takes, weeks or months instead of hours or days, that's not exactly a good substitute. But hey, it's a start, and it is, as they said, a new avenue to explore. Pretty cool though. 700 terabytes in a single CD. Imagine how many songs you could fit onto there. How many homemade playlists you could have. Heck, you could have all the songs on there. It's pretty cool. Okay, let's see. So we have time for just a couple of stories. Okay, how about this one? Unreal Engine. I'm actually a huge fan of it. I love the idea that companies can use Unreal Engine to, design their next level games, upload their own assets, but at the same time, you don't have to start over from scratch. You don't have to create your new physics. You don't have to redesign the lighting system. Light works the way it works. Physics work the way that you say they do. And essentially, a game engine is in some ways even cooler than any game that is therefore derived from it. Which now you have this article from Engadget saying that the Unreal Engine 5, which we first saw glimpses of it earlier this year, is now available in early access. It's pretty cool. It's no longer just a technical demo, but rather it is a partially released early access version. The key, as hinted last year, is the ability to produce near photorealistic visuals, convincing animations, and unique sounds with relatively little work, which is great. Again, if you love playing video games, this is what you want the people who make video games to have, which is access to the tools and a lower development time. You can quickly produce movie quality landscapes using the nanite system, while Lumen provides real-time lighting and adjusts for the time of day and clouds overhead. The animation system adapts to nearby surfaces and fills in crucial gaps, and the meta sound system can quickly produce. It's okay, John Vengus, it happens to us all, can quickly produce distinctive effects. So essentially, here on the video portion, we're looking at a giant mech automaton kind of deal, and a lady in the foreground. And of course, it's kind of mountainous, not cavernous, mountainous, wide open area. So if you wanted the sounds to echo and reverberate around this big open space, the game engine would do that automatically. So, all you have to do is put in, let's say, the sound of a gunshot, and then that gunshot would then be affected by whatever setting you have put into Unreal Engine. So there you go. And we're going to go ahead and mute this and play this in the background just because we can. This was, again, kind of the tech demo that they showed with all this kind of thing. Very, very cool. Now, the technical demo shared by Jeff Cayley is a reminder of the end result. Games can look and sound as good as pre-rendered cutscenes from just a few years ago. And of course, they can run on relatively affordable hardware like the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. It will be a long while before you play games built on Unreal Engine 5, such as the next effort from Gears 5 Coalition. It's safe to say that you can't come quickly enough, at least. Right now, even next-gen only games like Returnal look much like the previous gen counterparts, and Unreal Engine 5 will be one of the first engines that truly shows what modern hardware can do. That's where you come into things like ray tracing, RTX, dynamic lighting, physics, all that kind of thing. This will be, really usher in a new generation of games. Because if you didn't know, a lot of games nowadays are built on the Unreal Engine 4, with just different assets, new skins, new mechanics built in. But to actually see what Unreal Engine 5 can do, it has to be released. And it's really cool that they can. I'm also a huge fan of their monetization scheme, which came up the other day, where anyone can download this, anyone can play it. If you wanted to really get into game development, this would be an amazing place to start with the next gen stuff. You can get in, you can play with it, you can do a lot of other things with it, and then of course, kind of learn how to use it. But you only have to pay for it if you actually design a game and it sells a certain amount of copies. And then, of course, they get their cut. But they've done a really good job of kind of democratizing what it is that's out there. So there you have it. And of course, we highly encourage you to check out the early access of the Unreal Engine 5 in this video. It's really incredible just how quickly and easily it kind of all comes together to, it's not the most polished and it's not the most amazing, but at the same time, it's, it's something. And it puts a lot of development, just in people's hands. So there you go. We have time for one more story. How about... USB standards would always be a great one to end with, but instead of that, to run those next-gen games, you're going to need a next-gen graphics card. And this coming to us from Engadget, and NVIDIA has announced, or they could announce, they've set up an event at Computex this year, but June 1st, NVIDIA could announce the GeForce RTX 3080 Ti GPU. There you go. So the RTX 3080 Ti, which is usually their kind of intermediate step before they go to, 4080. The Ti generally means that, things got like 15% better, 10-15% better on average. So they mentioned that it released a vague teaser, and the teaser can be found right here if you're watching. Let's go ahead and mute that. Fun. Yeah, but they released a vague trailer. It's a completely rendered, kind of liquidy looking stuff through black graphite looking stuff. Anyways, they said that it released a vague teaser to announce an event in the next week during which it could show off a new graphics card. Rumors have suggested that the company will reveal the RTX 3080 Ti and the 3070 Ti at the end of the month. Reports have pegged that the RTX 3080 Ti is offering performance at a level in between the 3080 and the 3090, which makes sense because there's a huge price gap. There. Even if there wasn't a shortage, the 3080 at a price point of I think that came in at $699 or something like that, and the 3090 was at a price point of $1,500. There's a lot of middle ground to be had there. So they're mentioning it has 12 gigs of memory, 2 gigs more than the 3080, as well as a souped up memory bandwidth and a wider 384-bit bus. There you go, which would match the RTX 3090. It seems likely that any new cards will limit Ethereum hash rate, which is popular among cryptocurrency mining operations. The idea is to make the cards less attractive to crypto miners and hopefully more in the hands of gamers and consumers. Still, it'll be very difficult to get your hands on the 3080 Ti or 3070 Ti anytime soon without paying vastly more than retail. But until then, everyone, hey, more chances, more opportunity, more graphics cards, which is always fun. Now, the music in the background means that we are done. Thank you so much for tuning in to Computer America. Until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, everyone, we're working on booking. We're going to get more interviews here soon and a lot more companies. Stay tuned. Thank you for tuning in to Computer America. Everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.